So for this, you're going to need 2 Coregeous balls. If you don't have 2 Coregeous balls, you can use 1 Coregeous ball and a rolled up yoga mat for the other one, or you can use a thick bunched up blanket or towel, some of the other substitutions we've talked about before. You could also use a bolster instead of the 2 Coregeous balls, but I want something to cover your waist. So lay down on your left side and call these side bends on 2 Coregeous balls. So you'll lay down, rib cage and waist covered with Coregeous. Take an abdominal, thoracic breath into the Coregeous balls. Temporarily hold your breath, create the tubular core, and then on exhale, try to click the 2 Coregeous balls together like castanets on the side of your body. Inhale. Get long, get lengthened. Temporarily hold your breath and create that pre-tension, that tubular core, and exhale. Pelvis to rib cage. Sound familiar? So pelvis and rib cage attempting to clamp each other, touch each other. Of course, without extending and without rotating. Inhale. Temporarily hold your breath, create tension, and then exhale, side bending. Try to close the gap between the pelvis and the rib cage, but trying to overcome the rubber of the Coregeous balls. One more time, inhaling. Hold, create tension, and exhale. Squeezing, getting rid of the air. No more layer in there. And release. Let yourself recover, rest on the air-filled balls for a moment. You can close your eyes. My breath is a vortex. And from here, make sure you're really stable. So my left knee is coming at a 90-degree angle here. And then the right leg, you just want to extend the hip. So you're as long as you possibly can in that left hip. And then your left, I'm trying to mirror you. So this is your left leg is on the ground. Your right hip is extended. And it's as if I'm trying to stand on the ground. I'm trying to reach my leg as far away as possible. And then here's the right shoulder and arm coming overhead. So this goes back to the frontal plane axial rocks in the beginning. And I even have a little bit of yoga mat I can hold on to here. I'm just trying to create the longest line I possibly can. Take an abdominal thoracic breath in. Exhale all your air. And at the end of exhale, diaphragm vacuum. Release when you're no longer able to hold anymore. Take another abdominal thoracic breath. Feel the Coregeous balls in contact with you. And notice how I have a block to support my head here. I'm trying to get as long as I can through the side of the body. Exhale completely. And then at the end of exhale, when no air is left, broaden both sides of the rib cage. And for some of you, you might feel this incredible tug from the right side of the flesh on the underside of the diaphragm, how it hooks into the psoas. I'm lengthening the psoas maximally, or I'm lengthening the psoas intensely here. Maximally would be have the leg right behind me. But also with this arm overhead, we're getting a lot of traction in the psoas, in the lumbar spine, and the attachments of the psoas into the lumbar spine. And this is going to help us free up our ability to rotate in the triangle pose. Go ahead and release that. I could do that 19 more times. I just love the way that feels. It's a lot to learn there. And then stick your right leg out. And it's nice if you have a sliding surface here. I don't, I have my yoga mat. But all you want to do right now is try to find the muscles of rotation in your lumbar spine. And so I'm trying to move my foot forward and back. My breath is a vortex, but right now I'm trying to make a little vortex out of the lumbar spine. So a couple of these just lumbar rotations on 2 Coregeous balls, inside lying. I don't really have a name for this exercise. But I'm also trying to feel that it's prepping the core muscles to do the work, especially on the pullback part. So on the pullback part, really trying to find fibers of the right side of the erector spinae, internal abdominal obliques, external abdominal obliques are trying to pull this leg back. And also, we're in a lot of internal rotation and adduction here on this top hip. That is something you are going to experience in your twisted triangle later. All right, and then stop doing that and let your legs just rest. And now this next one, I'm not sure whether I can have my head on the floor or not. I'm going to try. Let's see. Just depends on how much girth you have here, and we'll try a couple different ways. So this next is, we just did some lumbar rotations, but now we want to do some thoracic rotations in the same position. I'm going to cast the right shoulder out, and I'm rotating the thoracic spine. The arm is going along for the ride, but the pelvis stays locked. So if my son were in the room, I'd ask my son to sit right here on my greater trochanter and not allow my pelvis to move. What I'm trying to do is cast a line through this upper, oh my God, it feels so good, this upper side of the rib cage that was already balled, right, by the Coregeous ball when you did those deep breaths. And looking to make the biggest loop around myself as possible. And one of the tells that your lumbar spine is getting involved is that your knees will start to shift, right? We already did that. We did that. We're not going to do that now. Now, the knees are going to tell me whether or not my pelvis is moving. And I don't want my pelvis to move, just like in the final twisted triangle pose. I'm not really going to want my pelvis to move. I want my pelvis to be an anchor, to be the foundation stone of the rest of the pose. And so you synchronize your breath here, and just depending on your shoulder range of motion too, you're either keeping your fingernails or finger on the floor the whole way, or maybe not. So that's not the point. The point is to get the rib cage and moving. All right, and release and come over. Oh, it feels so good. To the other side. I'm a little giddy. That was like champers on that one. Feels really good. It's also really nice to be supported by the Coregeous balls. It's like, oh, I don't have to worry about my spine. This is how I'm going to start to sleep at night. Okay. All this support. It's like a pregnancy pillow. Okay. So going back to the first side, breathe abdominal thoracic breath. Temporarily hold your breath, create tubular core, and then exhale, oh my gosh, side bend into the Coregeous ball. So the reason I'm saying, oh gosh, is this side just got so long and eccentrically worked, and now I'm concentrically working it, and it was a little surprising. Take an abdominal thoracic breath, hold, create tension, and exhale. Again, think of these as maybe two walnut halves that you're resetting back together, or two body castanets. Inhale, open, get longer. Hold, create tension, and exhale. Pelvis to rib cage to pelvis. It's really tempting to depress the scapula and to try to recruit the serratus, but try not to. See if you can just use the fundamentals of lateral flexion there. Last one, breathe in. Hold, create tension, and exhale. Side bend, making sure the pelvis is doing as much as the rib cage. Both sides of the quadratus lumborum are required here. And then release. Good. From here, we'll bring we're going to go into the psoas lengthening. So right hip stabilizes on the floor. Left hip extends. And so I get, again, into that akimbo thing. It's very similar, not exact, but it's very similar to the standing frontal plane axial rocks. We have this top arm coming up overhead. Oh my goodness. And now we're trying to gain length out of this side. So find your abdominal thoracic breath, let it press into the Coregeous balls. And then on exhale, empty and and release. Breathe in again. I'm still looking for more stretch, for more palm to foot stretch here. Exhale. And do that one more time. And as you know from previous classes, we really want to have the softness in the gut, in the abdominal layers when you're doing your diaphragm vacuum. There's no tension. We already did a bunch of tension. This is about a soft, pliable abdomen. I'm trying to look for the lining of the birthday suit here, the inner, what I call the inner baby carriage, stretching the diaphragm from throat all the way to lumbar spine. And then go ahead and line up your knees and stretch your top leg out and rotating the lumbar spine forward and back. And so I've got this other leg, the under leg is kind of my track, it's my train track, and this top leg has to ride it, but the reason it's being moved is not because I'm forcing leg strength out, but I'm using back muscles and abdominal muscles to create the rotation, to create that winding up. So I can build some capacity of lumbar rotation intelligence, which you're gonna need for a twisted triangle. And release. If you slid away. Now, the knees are lined up, which indicates the two pelvic bones are lined up. So I have to do some amount of monitoring there. And then thinking about, okay, this rib cage comes forward, that's the left rib cage. And the Coregeous balls are also under here as a pivoter. So it's the spheres allow the bottom rib cage to be massaged while the top rib cage is leading the shoulder around. I'm also adducting, I'm squeezing the legs together to help fortify the pelvis so that the pelvis, again, doesn't end up moving all around. Because when you're doing your twisted triangle pose, if your pelvis is moving all around, your back muscles and your abdominal muscles are not going to be getting any type of tone. They're not going to be bearing the load. What will be bearing the load is your hip sockets and your butt in different places. But in the twisted triangle, we want to use the pose to help educate the deep spinal muscles and all layers of the core to do a better support job. And that'll be really evident pretty soon.